The annual Chin family dinner was in full swing at Golden Palace, the same upscale Chinese restaurant where we'd gathered every year for as long as I could remember. Uncles boasted about their latest Mercedes, aunties flaunted their designer handbags, and my cousins eagerly showcased their accomplishments, each eager to remind everyone just how successful they were. Across the lazy Susan, Michael's cousin Kevin called out with a tone that blended concern and condescension. "Still taking the bus? I can recommend some good lease options," he joked, voice carrying effortlessly. I adjusted the cuff of my simple white shirt, revealing a glimpse of my watch beneath. "The bus works fine," I replied. Aunt Linda chimed in, "So practical. Though with your computer job, you could probably afford something better." I fought back a smile. My computer job, the tech company I'd founded, was the reason I was wearing a watch worth more than everything else in this restaurant combined. Only a handful of Philippe Dufour Grande Sonnery minute repeaters like mine were ever made, and most collectors didn't even know who owned them all. Most importantly, only I knew its true value. Speaking of jobs, Uncle Richard turned to Kevin. "Kevin just made junior partner at Goldman Sachs," he announced, pride evident in his voice. The table erupted in congratulations. Kevin adjusted his Rolex, likely a bonus gift, but one that paled in comparison to the rarity of my watch. "And what about you, Michael?" my dad asked, eyes flickering with that familiar hint of disappointment. "Still doing your app development?" Before I could answer, a waiter arrived with more dishes. As I reached for the soy sauce, my sleeve rolled up again, this time catching my dad's attention. His chopsticks clattered to the table as his face drained of color. That's impossible," he stammered, staring at my wrist. The entire table fell silent. Dad had been a passionate watch collector for decades before a market crash forced him to sell his collection. He knew exactly what was on my wrist. "Is something wrong?" Mom asked, glancing between us. Dad's voice was barely a whisper. "It's a Grande Sonnery. There are only 16 in the world. It's worth $2 million. Kevin's trained eye finally registered what he was seeing. "Give or take, depending on the market," I added casually. The silence that followed was almost tangible. Aunt Linda's designer bag suddenly seemed cheap. Uncle Richard's Mercedes felt decidedly middle class. "Oh, this old thing?" I said with a smile, deliberately echoing Aunt Linda's earlier remark about her Gucci bag. "Just something I picked up at auction last month." "But how?" Mom exhaled, clearly stunned. "You take the bus," I replied calmly, taking a sip of tea and savoring the moment. "Ever wonder why?" "It's because I'm usually on calls with our Tokyo office. Can't do that while driving." Kevin's smirk vanished. "Tokyo office? What exactly does your app do?" I pulled out my phone, not the latest iPhone that had elicited snickers earlier, and brought up our company's latest valuation report. "We develop AI-driven financial trading algorithms," I explained, sliding the device toward him. "Actually, we probably power some of the systems you use at Goldman." His eyes widened as he read. Uncle Richard leaned over, squinting, then made a choking sound. 10 billion, he wheezed. "Actually, after last month's funding round, it's 11.2 billion, I corrected. Though valuations can be pretty volatile, right, Kevin? Kevin's Rolex suddenly looked insignificant. Dad still stared at my watch, a complex mixture of recognition and regret flickering across his face. He was the one who had introduced me to watches. The history, the craftsmanship, before losing everything in the market crash and deciding that a traditional banking career was the safer choice. "It was the auction," he said quietly. "Christie's last month. An anonymous buyer. I knew you'd recognize it eventually. It was Dad's dream piece." Mom's voice was soft. "Before I knew it, you bought it?" I nodded. "Why do you think I did?" The rest of the dinner grew painfully quiet, broken only by the clink of chopsticks and the occasional request to pass dishes. My cousins, normally so vocal about their achievements, seemed to have lost their voices. Even Kevin stopped mentioning Goldman Sachs. Finally, Uncle Richard broke the silence. "This company of yours, it's quite impressive," someone remarked casually. I glanced at my phone, another notification from our London office. "You could say we process about 30% of all AI-driven trades in Asia," I replied smoothly. "Probably closer to 40% after next month's merger." Kevin's eyes lit up, instinctively sensing the significance. "A merger? With whom?" I can't say just yet, I said with a knowing smile. But you'll probably read about it soon in the Financial Times. Your firm is handling part of the due diligence. Kevin's face paled. The quantum trade acquisition, that's your company. Dad's head snapped up sharply. Quantum trade? The Singapore-based firm revolutionizing Asian markets? He asked, voice edged with surprise. I kept my tone deliberately vague. That's right. The NDA isn't lifting for another week. Aunt Linda leaned forward, her earlier dismissiveness replaced with genuine curiosity. Michael, darling, why didn't you tell us? All this time, we thought you were struggling to take the bus because you couldn't afford a car. I adjusted my watch again, letting the light catch its intricately crafted complications. Sometimes, success didn't need to be shouted from the rooftops. Uncle Richard, ever the opportunist, cut in. My investment portfolio could use some diversification. Maybe we could discuss. Sorry to interrupt, I said politely, but we're fully funded. Our last round was oversubscribed by about $3 billion. The table fell silent. $3 billion in oversubscription was more than all their portfolios combined. Mom reached out gently, touching my sleeve. Son, why keep it a secret all these years? Because I wanted to build something real, I replied softly. Not just chase status symbols or seek family approval. Dad was still staring at my wrist. Then he spoke quietly. The auction. It was your father's. The one in my study. The picture I kept on my desk. I nodded. For 20 years. Until the crash forced you to sell your collection. He winced at the memory. 2008 hit us hard. It turned me from a proud collector into someone who pushed his children toward safer careers. Banking, finance, stability. Is that why you bought it? He asked softly. To prove something? I rolled back my sleeve, revealing the watch fully. Its moon phase complication caught the streetlight's glow. An exquisite testament to craftsmanship and dreams that transcend wealth. Every time I visited your study as a kid, I said, you told me about this watch. How only 16 exist in the world. How it embodies the pinnacle of human skill and dedication. His eyes misted. When I started my company, I kept a picture of it too. Not for money or status, but to remind me about precision, about building something rare and perfect. Just then, Kevin and Uncle Richard burst outside, both talking rapidly into their phones. Probably calling brokers to research my company. Aunt Linda was scrolling through her phone, showing Mom pictures of her friend's daughter. I reached into my pocket and started to unfasten the watch. This was always meant to be yours, I said softly. He hesitated. I can't. It's too much. I smiled. Actually, I bought 2 at the auction. This one's yours. Mine's in Singapore. 1 masterpiece per continent, seemed reasonable. His hands trembled as I handed him the watch. 2. That's $4 million. About what I make in interest each month, I replied casually. Besides, some things are worth more than money. Mom approached, clutching Aunt Linda's phone. Michael, dear, about this lovely girl. Sorry, Mom. I cut her off gently. I'm already seeing someone. She's the head of AI research at MIT. We met at a conference where I was the keynote speaker. Relatives nearby nearly did a double take, turning to stare. Remember what you used to say about this watch? Dad said softly, admiring his own. That it was valuable not because of its price, but because of its pursuit of perfection. I nodded. That's exactly what I built. Not just another trading company, but something precise, rare, and industry-changing. My phone buzzed again. Markets opening soon in Singapore. Dad smiled knowingly. You should go, he said. Markets wait for no one. Actually, I pulled out 2 tickets. Why don't you and Mom come to Singapore next week? See what I've built. First class, of course, Mom asked. On your jet, she added with a smile. No, I grinned. On the bus. Just kidding, I said with a chuckle. Of course on my jet. As we prepared to leave, I overheard Kevin explaining to Uncle Richard why making junior partner at Goldman wasn't everything. Aunt Linda was suddenly interested in tech stocks. My other cousins were frantically Googling my company. But none of that mattered as much as watching Dad show Mom his new watch, explaining its complications with the same passion I remembered from childhood. Some things are worth more than money, like the look on your father's face when he realizes his son didn't just succeed, but stayed true to the values he was raised with. That night, I took the bus home as usual, but this time I spent the ride gazing at pictures of Dad's old watch collection, plotting how to gradually rebuild it, one masterpiece at a time. Sometimes the best revenge isn't flaunting your wealth. It's using it to restore what truly matters. And sometimes taking the bus doesn't mean you're broke. It means you're too busy building an empire to care what others think.